Welcome to the Full Monty and a Cup of Joe. Do us a favor and subscribe to the podcast and leave a positive rating and review for us. We'd really appreciate it. Let's get into this. All right, last thing, let's switch to the NFL. So we haven't talked a lot of NFL yet, but my teams are the Packers and the Chiefs, and your team is the Steelers. So
the Stumblers.
We've got the Chiefs and Ravens kicking off the season on Thursday. Now, I I actually bet the Chiefs to win the third straight Super Bowl. I think with Patrick Mahomes, I know it's never happened before, but with Patrick Mahomes, I think this is a generational talent, and the Chiefs have the best odds of any other team to win it again. So I'm going to go with that. I'm picking the Chiefs to three-peat. I can't believe I'm saying that. I can't believe they won 2 Super Bowls in a row and 3 out of the last 5. It just doesn't seem real, but I'm not going to put it past Mahomes to get it done again. His receivers are massively upgraded from last year. I mean, they've got this Xavier Worthy from Texas. He's a speedster. He's going to be a Tyreek Hill type guy. And they've got enough coming back that I think they're going to get it done again. Or at least they got the best chance of anybody. And as far as from the NFC, I've got the 49ers again. I got to pick them because I think they're probably the best team in the NFC. I do have a couple sleepers. The Packers, that's my team, but if Jordan Love keeps progressing like he had last year, had a great year and really proved me wrong because I thought he was going to be a bust, or I was afraid of it anyway. They played really well. They barely lost a playoff game. They could have made the Super Bowl, and I think they're a sleeper in the NFC. And the Jets, with Aaron Rodgers, as long as he stays healthy and they got a tough defense, I think the Jets may make a run as well. So what's your take? What's your Super Bowl pick?
Well, I hate to say it's not the Steelers. I think you're going to see a much improved Steelers team, and I don't think it's necessarily because Russell Wilson is all that great, and neither is Justin Fields. But if you look at what Pittsburgh was able to do in getting Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, they cleared a ton of cap space. And so Pittsburgh was able to build around the rest of their team. So you don't necessarily have a stud all-star quarterback. You got a name. I mean, you got Russell Wilson, who's a functional quarterback, and you got Justin Fields, who's, he's Justin Fields. Right? I mean, he's a quarterback. He can probably get you out of a jam. The quarterback situation has been ugly in Pittsburgh the last few years, and really hope that it's a lot better this year. I hope they can keep some continuity back there and keep him off the ground and keep his jersey black and not green. We'll see about that. So Pittsburgh opens the season at Atlanta. And I think that'll be a win for Pittsburgh. For some reason, Pittsburgh usually does pretty good against a lot of those NFC teams, and especially that division. They've usually done pretty good against Atlanta and Carolina, and even New Orleans and Tampa Bay. But I don't think that I think Pittsburgh will make the playoffs. I think that Pittsburgh might advance in the playoffs. I don't think that you're going to see Pittsburgh in the AFC Championship game. I feel like as long as the Chiefs can stay healthy, as long as they can keep
big question.
As long as the Chiefs can stay healthy, as long as they can protect Mahomes, it's hard to see anyone jumping up and knocking them off. I don't really know who it would be. We thought it was going to be Buffalo, and they had a couple of games there where they had their chances. Cincinnati had their chances, and the Chiefs just keep on coming back, and they just keep finding a way to do it. And I don't see any reason why this year they wouldn't do it again. I mean, if I had to bet money right now, just going into the season blind, I'd probably say probably a repeat of the last 4 or 5 years. I'd probably say either Chiefs Bills or Chiefs Bengals for the AFC Championship, and then I'd probably say San Francisco and someone else, and I don't know who else. I really don't. I don't know who else. Uh, yeah, I mean, it could be Green Bay. I mean, Green Bay could certainly do it. Um, I don't. I look across the NFC. No, number one, let me say this much just as a disclaimer. For whatever reason, I'm not an NFC fan. I don't like what I've never liked NFC football for whatever reason. I just maybe it's because I grew up with too much Cowboys crap being pumped in my ears. But then again, the 49ers were good back then also, and the Packers.
These last 5 years remind me of like the late 80s or early 90s, where you had the Giants, the Redskins, Cowboys, Bears were good. You had those 49ers, you had those same teams in the playoffs every year for like 5 or maybe even 10 years in a row.
We had this thing really, and I refer to it as the Tom Brady complex. And we had this thing for so long where it was just Brady. It was nothing but Brady. It was nothing but the Patriots. It was nothing but Brady, and that's all we heard. I mean, it was every year, and so it's like, finally, we don't have that now, and now there's a vacuum that has to be filled, and it's like all our old teams that from the late 70s until the early 2000s that we got used to. It's like all our old teams are coming back. Those playoff games. Now I said that I don't like the NFC, and I don't like the NFC. I never have. I don't really have an NFC team. But some of those playoff games between Green Bay and San Francisco and Dallas and New York and Dallas and Green Bay, some of those NFC playoff games, man, those were some crazy, awesome playoff games. Those were some darn good NFC teams back then, and they were fun to watch. And I still wasn't really pulling for anyone, because usually it was the Cowboys, and usually what I was doing was pulling for the Packers, just because of Sterling Sharp. Who went to Carolina. So I was
kind of Packers could never get past them.
Yeah.
Brett Favre finally came, and then they got 2 years in a row. But
it's the same thing as the Utah Jazz. I loved watching Malone and Stockton, and it never failed, man. Jordan and Pippen would just swat them right down, like kids. And it was like, man, one day the Jazz have got to get one of these things, and no, never happened. So but if I had to pick right now, if I could pick my Super Bowl right now, it would be Kansas City and San Francisco.
Yeah, I agree on that. So.
And I hate to go back to the old reliable like that, but until somebody else gives me something to go with, I don't have a lot to go off of.
Someone else has to prove it.
Lamar
Jackson and the Ravens, they get the publicity all year, every year, the last few years. But Lamar Jackson chokes in the playoffs. He can't get it done.
They are amazing. They're a great team, and Lamar Jackson is amazing to watch. And there again, it's kind of like a Dallas thing. It's like, it's great, it's wonderful until you get to the playoffs, and then it's like, you mess the bed once you get to the playoffs. So, I mean, what we need to see to fix all that, unfortunately, I hate to say it, would be a Dallas-Baltimore Super Bowl, because then you would kind of say, okay, well, now we've thrown some new blood into the mix,
right?
But one or the both of them has to not choke.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
all right, Monty. Well, this was fun, man.
Yeah.
You got anything else?
I think deer hunting should be a sport, and I'm open to sponsors. Things cost money, So
It might be your
anybody,
chance to be world champion at
yeah.
something.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't be world champion at that. I wouldn't mind doing some of the competitive eating, just for a little fun. But hey,
Yeah, be the. And we were going to talk about Joey Chestnut and how do you say it? Kobayashi or whatever, however you pronounce his name.
Yeah, you need
83 hot dogs by Joey Chestnut in 10 minutes.
God, I can't imagine.
He looked like he was going to die of a heart attack. He was sweating like a stuffed pig.
I can't imagine, man.
It was gross.
I had a conversation with a buddy of mine several years ago, and we were, just trash talking, whatever. And we were in the Army, and we'd go to CC's Pizza, and whoever eats the most pizza doesn't have to buy their beer for the night, right? So that kind of thing. And so we came up with this thing: 10 beers, 10 hot dogs. Who can get them gone first? And I just remember thinking in my head, it's nothing for me to sit down and eat 2 or 3 hot dogs. And I know I don't drink anymore at all, but I know back then I know I can kill some beers. And I was like, I can do 10 beers and 10 hot dogs. Let's do it. So we got a case of beer and a couple packs of dogs and cooked them up and got everything ready. Man, I'm telling you what, by the time you get to 3 or 4 hot dogs with 3 or 4 beers on top of it,
yeah,
no, you're done.
It's harder than it sounds.
It's a lot harder than you think it is. I was like, 10 beers and 10 dogs, that's no problem at all. Yeah, right. But that there was a girl that won that thing one year. You remember that?
Yeah.
And she was a little thing. She was a little
she's making YouTube videos now doing food challenges.
Oh man,
I can't remember her name. I've watched a couple of them, and she's just a tiny thing, but she can put away some food.
What's that do to your stomach for the next 2 or 3 days?
I don't know, man.
That
can't feel good.
No, I mean that.
Or do they take a lot of X-Lax and just get rid of all of it?
I don't know. I mean, go puke it up, I guess. I don't.
That's what I thought they might do too. But.
So how's K-State? No serious injuries. Nothing to report on the injury front.
Nope, we're good.
All right. Well, this weekend will be. The way I look at this is like that first week. That 0 week, I guess, when we had like the Ireland game, it's like, whatever, maybe there's 2 games, 3 games, whatever, whatever. But then the first week of college football, which was this past weekend, I'm still kind of whatever-ish about it, just because I know typically there's going to be 3 or 4 marquee games. But basically, it's going to be about 60 games of crap is what it's going to be. It's going to be just absolute wipeouts. But this weekend coming up, this is where the snot knocking starts right here. This weekend coming up, this is where these boys get serious. And so this is where we might start seeing some injuries. This is where we'll start seeing some separation. This is where we'll start getting our first real glance at who the real contenders are and who the pretenders are. And so that's why this weekend to me is the first real weekend of college football, because you never know. You don't get a good feel about that first game, and not to impugn any of these other schools, because those kids try as hard as everyone. They put in the work, they put in the time. But when you're talking about a UT Martin, or you're talking about an Old Dominion, or you're talking about, Southeast Missouri, or who is that Kansas played? Heiselberg or
Lindenwood.
Something. I don't.
How did they even find them?
I don't know.
Good gracious. That's embarrassing. Even for them, that's embarrassing.
I'm not trying to jump on KU. I'm not trying to jump on them, but I cannot name every single Division I and Division II FBS and FCS team. I can name pretty much all of the FBS teams, but when I get to the FCS level, I could probably name most of them, but I've at least heard of them. And if somebody tells me the name, I've never heard that before. I didn't know. I was like, is that an online?
They've definitely never played a Division I FBS team before.
Do
That's
they even
for
have?
sure.
Do they even have a charter? I mean, do they? Are they even?
I think they
I mean,
played for like 3 years now.
oh
So
boy,
their football program's like a 3-year-old baby or something like that.
hey, good for KU. They're 1-0. But that's not a real good measure, and that's not a real good barometer for you right there.
No. But you gave me a good idea for a segment for we should do every week. Pretender or contender.
Absolutely.
We go through the list and say who's a contender and who's a pretender.
Right. And
So remember that.
after this weekend, we will know. We will know
Yep.
for certain at least a few.
Yep. All right, brother. This was awesome.
Yeah, man.